Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Eddie Austin YouTube channel. Today, we're going to talk about asset or real estate due diligence when we are purchasing a piece of property. So today, I was on a real estate meetup, and this was asked of me to do something along the lines of due diligence. Well, I've always asked for opportunities to speak on subjects that I might be able to give value to other people. So I wanted to go through a few things that we do when we're buying a piece of property, especially multifamily real estate. What does that look like? So number one, we want to look at all the financials of the property. We want to look at the rent rolls. We want to look at the financial statements as far as the T12s. We want to look any type of paperwork they have in place on their leasing agreements and everything of that sort. Number one, we want to make sure that the rent rolls are accurate with what they say as the current occupancy level is. So that's number one. Number two, I want to know for sure that this building is a safe place. So I want to make sure I'm walking around the property doing the right things, making sure it's in a good neighborhood. These are probably things we probably should have checked off before we ever got to the property, but we never truly get a feel for it until we're on the property itself. From there, I want to make sure that there's no physical liens on the property. There's nothing recorded at the courthouse. There's nothing on title. And I want to make sure that when we buy this property, we're not buying it with problems. That's huge. We want to make sure that we're checking these boxes off before we sign anything that we're going to purchase this piece of property. I want to know that there's physical inspection done as well. So I want to make sure that we actually have an inspection done for the electrical, the plumbing, and just visually, we're going to inspect that the outside of the building, there's no structural damage. The building's not leaning into one side or the other, that the concrete's not cracked up. There's not sewage or drainage problems on the property. These are just physical things that we can check off the actual due diligence documents or the internal things that we're going to check off before buying a piece of property. We can do those right away. And it helps tremendously because we don't want to be buying a piece of property that the foundation's busted on. Next, I would hire a professional inspector to come in and inspect the electrical and the plumbing and the foundation to make sure there is no underlying issues that we cannot see. We can see a burn outlet, but we can't see it behind the wall. Sometimes if you found some issues, you may want to have an engineered inspection done to make sure that they're actually doing a good job of inspecting this building. Look at the roofs. You don't want to buy a piece of property and have to replace the roof right away and you didn't budget for it. The second thing I would definitely check, again, is the property records. Make sure there's no liens filed against this thing at the courthouse. There's no memos on title. I know I'm going back on that, but it's just a big thing we got to check off before we buy a piece of property because there can be liens that we just don't know about. And hey, maybe the owner's trying to disclose it. Maybe he's not trying to disclose it and get one over on you. You never know. And in the world of dishonesty, you can always check off the boxes on honesty by just making sure it's in black and white and there's nothing else out there that can bite us in the butt after we buy a piece of property. Again, I want to really lean in on the financial statements of this property. I want to look at the tax returns. I want to make sure that there's pet deposits in place. I want to make sure there's physical tenants that are in every door, just like my rent roll shows me that there is. Number two, I want to make sure that I have everything in place that the T12 checks out. What I mean by that is your T12 is a month by month of gross revenue dropped in on the top line, and then each expense line item all the way down from the property management to maintenance to any type of contract work that's been done, security, all that stuff should be on there. We want to make sure that all those line items are on there. And another thing is insurance. Today, there's a lot of things with insurance that is, insurance policies are going up. So if it's on their financial statement, the insurance looks too cheap, it probably is. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the insurance on the property is actually accurate with a property that size. If you're buying a 100-unit building and it says they're only paying $200 a month, it's probably incorrect. So we want to make sure that we're actually getting insurance quotes on this thing and making sure that when we close on it, that it's going to be a correct number and not the number that they have on there that's way too cheap. Another thing is prop taxes. When you buy a piece of property in certain markets, the sale price of that property causes the property taxes to go up. So if you're looking at this piece of property and they have it saying that they're only paying $30,000 a year, well, after you buy it for several $1,000,000, that number probably changed drastically. So you want to make sure that you have that stuff checked off. You can find that at the local city office. Check with the property taxes, see what kind of program they have for the purchase price and how that property is assessed when you purchase it. We want to get appraisals too. We want to make sure this property is appraised for what they say it is. Your bank's going to do that, but you'll look a lot better when you come into this thing and have an appraisal already done. If not, have one done by a third party. Most likely, your bank is not going to sign off on it until they have an appraisal that they like. So do that for sure. So inspections, appraisals, check your insurance, get all these boxes checked off. You know, these are things that's going to make you decide whether you want this property or don't. Another thing, you want an environmental statement, a phase 1 environmental for sure. How much lead-based paint is on this property? Number 2, is this thing built on top of a gas station? Who knows? But we want to check that stuff out. Another thing is when we do an environmental statement, we're actually checking the health of the soil and making sure that there was no hazardous contaminants that's in the soil. There's no hazardous spills. There wasn't a tanker truck that turned over on the sidewalk and dumped it on the property and they just swept it under the rug, because that's going to be our problem when we buy this piece of property. So we want to do those things. Absolutely. So definitely conduct an environmental statement. I've got a long video coming out on this, but when I made the video and I realized that there's going to be some editing things and my editor is going to take some time with that video, I realized that I need to make sure that I get this information out here right away, and I can get the guy that wanted this video done. He's going to get a little piece of that, and he'll look for the next video that's coming out, because I'll go actually in depth and I'm going to actually read off our documentation on how we conduct a due diligence checklist on a piece of property. If you want to learn more, please, by all means, leave a comment in the box and make sure that you're staying tuned by subscribing to this channel and commenting. And I'm happy to make a video on anything you would like to know more about, as long as it's around real estate, because that's the only thing I'm focused on at this time is real estate, fund management. And also, by the way, we just started our first real estate coaching program that is outlined for syndicators wanting to go to real estate funds, or if you've done small real estate and you want to start doing syndication, we can help you with that. It's called J.E. Austin Extraordinary Capital. You can go to our website at extraordinary.capital. Check it out. Let me know what you think. If it's something you're interested in, give us a phone call, 812-739-3413. Y'all have a great day, and thank you so much for the time. And if this was helpful, please give me a thumbs up.